I want you to imagine a scenario for a second. Um, what if you are already a genius?
Right.
And I don't mean like a potential genius.
Yeah.
Not someone who could be smart if they just read more books or, woke up at 5 a.m. or drank some proprietary blend of super greens.
Yeah, not just a life hack genius.
Exactly. I mean, a literal, undeniable genius. And what if the only reason you don't realize it yet is because your everyday life, the very normal, highly encouraged things you do every single day, is actively destroying that potential?
It's a pretty staggering thought experiment, honestly.
Yeah, it really is.
Because we usually think of genius as this genetic lottery ticket, right?
Right.
Or the result of some freak serendipitous environment.
Like you're struck by lightning.
Exactly. So the idea that we were walking around with this immense, entirely untapped capacity and systematically dismantling it with our own daily habits, it forces you to look at your entire routine through a very harsh lens.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are unpacking a really intriguing, incredibly provocative essay by an author named Su Feng.
Yeah, published back on November 25th, 2022.
Right, and it's titled Mediocrity and Chaos: The Culprits Behind the Destruction of Genius. So our mission today is to explore this radical premise that every single one of us is born a genius.
Which is a huge claim.
It's massive, and we're going to examine the 4 specific, everyday culprits that drag us down into mediocrity.
And we should establish right off the bat, we are not talking about massive tragic events derailing a life here.
No, not at all.
We are talking about the mundane, the everyday friction that society actually praises us for managing well.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because the essay doesn't start with, like, time management advice or psychological studies.
Yeah, it goes much bigger.
Yeah, it starts with something called holographic theory, which frankly sounds a bit like science fiction.
It definitely sets a sweeping metaphysical stage for the argument. Holographic theory, at least as presented in this text, borrows from the concept of physical holograms.
Okay, how so?
Well, if you cut a photographic hologram in half, you don't get half the image. You actually get the entire image, just in slightly lower resolution.
Oh, wow. Actually didn't know that.
Yeah, and the author extrapolates this to the universe, suggesting that every single point in the cosmos contains information about the entire universe. It basically posits that every existing molecule holds all the information of the universe's past.
Wait, pause. So, if I'm understanding this, the text is saying the molecules making up the coffee cup in front of me, or, the molecules in my own hand, literally contain the blueprint of the entire cosmos.
That is exactly what it's saying.
Because the author explicitly mentions that this universal information includes, like, gods, Buddhas, celestial beings, saints, demons, and ghosts.
Right.
Is the author speaking metaphorically here about our genetic potential? Or are they making a literal metaphysical claim?
It really reads as a literal metaphysical framework to justify a philosophical point. Because every person is made of matter, and all matter contains this complete cosmic blueprint, the author concludes that every single person is inherently a genius.
Wow.
You are born with the data of the divine and the brilliant already encoded inside you. It's not something you acquire, it's something you uncover.
That is a massive starting point. So we aren't blank slates. We are, like, fully loaded hard drives.
Exactly, fully loaded.
But, I mean, if we all have this cosmic blueprint for genius and the data of saints and Buddhas is just sitting there in our cells, why is the world filled with so much mediocrity?
That's the big question.
Right. Like, why aren't we all walking around painting masterpieces and curing diseases?
That tension is literally the entire driving force of the essay. The author identifies 4 core culprits that transform a world of inherent geniuses into a world overflowing with mediocrity.
And the first one.
The first culprit is what the text calls miscellaneous tasks, or essentially chores.
Chores. Honestly, it sounds like standard time management, like reading a productivity book or something.
It does sound like that at first.
Yeah, because the text gives a very mathematical example about a man named Zhang San. The author says, if Zhang San spends 8 hours a day writing poetry, he will undoubtedly write great poems.
Sure, makes sense.
But if he spends 3 hours making meals, 1 hour cleaning, 1 hour running errands, and 2 hours gardening, he only has 1 hour left for poetry.
Right, it's basic math.
Yeah. But given the mystical opening about cosmic blueprints, I'm guessing the author's reason for avoiding chores goes deeper than just, freeing up an hour on your calendar.
You're absolutely right to question that, because it is not just about time tracking. It is about the nature of human attention and the mechanics of the flow state.
Okay, tell me more.
The text explicitly states that genius requires absolute focus. Doing a multitude of miscellaneous tasks is fatal to genius, especially when those tasks have no internal connection to one another.
So like cooking and poetry.
Exactly. Making breakfast has no thematic connection to the structure of the poem Zhang San is writing.
It's like deep sea diving then.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, if true, genius-level poetry is at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, right?
Hey.
You need hours just to mentally descend to that depth.
Right, you can't just snap your fingers and be there.
Exactly. So a chore isn't just an hour lost. It's being violently yanked back to the surface. You don't just lose the 60 minutes you spent cooking. You lose the 3 hours it takes to swim back down to where the genius actually happens.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. When you force your brain to constantly switch contexts, from the profound depths of artistic creation to the mundane reality of scrubbing a floor, you shatter the momentum.
Yeah, you just lose it completely.
Every time you switch tasks, there's a cognitive residue left behind, a metabolic cost to your brain.
Wow, cognitive residue.
Yeah, the author argues that the more miscellaneous things you do, the more mediocre you become because you are living your entire life in the shallows. Genius requires a singular, unbroken tether to your passion.
So even if I automate my chores like I buy a robot vacuum, order all my meals, and buy back my 8 hours, I'm still physically interacting with the world.
Great.
I still have to eat lunch with my coworkers, call my mom, or go to a neighbor's barbecue. Does the author think that breaks the deep sea dive too?
Unapologetically, yes. Which brings us to the second, and arguably most controversial, culprit.
Here's where it gets really interesting, yeah.
Social engagements. The text takes a firm, almost clinical view of human interaction.
Hold on, let me push back here. The author makes an observation about Nobel Prize winners, claiming these undisputed geniuses spent the vast majority of their time immersed in their academic fields, not socializing.
Right.
But didn't Einstein famously bounce ideas off his peers? The author is claiming isolation is a strict prerequisite for genius, but that feels, I don't know, historically inaccurate.
Yeah.
How do they justify that?
Well, the author draws a very specific boundary around what constitutes time-wasting socializing.
Okay.
It's not necessarily collaborating on a shared obsession. The essay explicitly defines this drain as the effort required to maintain good relationships with family, friends, colleagues, bosses, subordinates, neighbors, and relatives.
So literally everyone.
Basically, it is the obligatory maintenance of the social web.
So it's about emotional labor, like remembering your aunt's birthday, navigating office politics, keeping the peace at Thanksgiving.
Precisely that. What's fascinating here is how the text views normal human connection. Think about your own day yesterday.
Okay.
How much of your mental battery was drained just navigating the complexities of social dynamics, wondering if your boss interpreted an email correctly, or, managing a friend's subtle passive aggressiveness.
Oh, yeah. That stuff is exhausting.
Right. And the author is arguing that energy was literally stolen from your true potential. Every ounce of cognitive power you spend appeasing a relative is energy you did not spend decoding your cosmic blueprint.
It completely recontextualizes what we consider a healthy, normal life.
It really does.
For most of society, maintaining good relationships with your family and your neighbors is the definition of a successful existence, is the joy of life. But this essay frames it as a direct, aggressive roadblock. It's essentially saying that having coffee with a coworker is actively robbing the universe of a masterpiece.
In the logic of the essay, yes. Socializing introduces unpredictable variables into your environment.
Because people are unpredictable.
Exactly. People have demands, emotional needs, and crises that require your immediate context switching. The more time you spend fulfilling these social obligations, the faster you accelerate toward mediocrity.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Yeah.
Let's say I buy into this completely.
Right.
I hire someone to do all my chores, I delete all my social media, I stop talking to my family, I move to a cabin in the woods.
The full hermit mode.
The full hermit mode.
Okay.
I have 0 miscellaneous tasks and 0 social engagements. I've eliminated the external drains. Am I finally guaranteed to unlock this genius?
Actually, no. The author warns that you can still easily sabotage yourself from the inside.
Wait, really? How?
Even in complete isolation, you can fall victim to the third culprit, broad interests.
Ah, the trap of being well-rounded. There's a really powerful quote directly from the text here, translated to English. The author writes, "Not afraid of someone who knows 1,000 moves, but afraid is someone who has mastered one perfect move.
Yeah, it cuts directly against almost all modern educational and professional advice.
It really does.
We are constantly told to diversify our skills, right? To be adaptable, to cultivate a wide range of hobbies so we can relate to different people and pivot in a changing economy.
Colleges literally filter for the well-rounded applicant. They want the kid who plays the cello, runs track, volunteers at the animal shelter, and codes in Python. We culturally praise the polymath.
We do. But the author views that praise as a fundamental misunderstanding of mastery. Trying to be a jack of all trades is framed as a guaranteed path to achieving absolutely nothing of historical value.
That is harsh.
It is. But if we look at the neurology of mastery, deep learning requires the intense myelination of specific neural pathways.
Right. Repetition and focus.
Exactly. When you spread your cognitive load across 1,000 different domains, you are building 1,000,000 flimsy bridges instead of one indestructible highway.
It makes you wonder if our modern obsession with being well-rounded or having a side hustle is actually just a fear of committing to one true path.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, like if you only have one perfect move and it fails, you have nothing to fall back on. Diversifying your interests is almost a defense mechanism.
Yes, exactly.
But Shifeng is saying that cowardice prevents genius. You are just skimming the surface of 1,000 ponds instead of diving to the bottom of one ocean.
That vulnerability is required. Broad interests dilute the absolute perfection required for true genius.
Right.
If your attention is fractured by 3 different hobbies, even if you have no chores and no friends, you're still preventing yourself from achieving that singular obsession. Genius, in this framework, demands a brutally narrow focus.
Okay, so I am in my cabin in the woods. I have no chores. I speak to no one. And I have abandoned all my hobbies except for one singular pursuit. I am obsessed. I am ready to unlock the cosmic blueprint. What could possibly stop me now?
The environment itself.
What?
Yeah, what if you willingly give up all those things, but the world outside your cabin simply refuses to let you do your work? That is the 4th and final culprit, lack of freedom.
Okay. This is where the essay shifts from personal choices to environmental constraints.
Exactly.
The author lists these really vivid, frustrating struggles. Like, you want to go left, but the environment blocks you and forces you to go right.
Right.
You want to sleep during the day and do your brilliant work at night, but the noise of the city or just societal schedules doesn't allow it. You want to plant melons, but the environment forces you to plant beans.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the core concept here is complete, unadulterated personal autonomy.
Which nobody really has.
Exactly. If we unpack the melon and bean analogy, it's about the staggering cognitive load of fighting societal norms. If you are a melon grower born in a bean-growing society, you have to spend a massive amount of energy just justifying your existence.
Masking your true desires.
Yes, or literally fighting for the physical space to plant your seeds.
It's the ultimate friction. If you have to spend 80% of your daily energy just fighting your environment to get the right to do your work, you only have 20% left to actually do the work. You are already losing.
Precisely. The text argues that if your life's activities are spent catering to your environment rather than following your own internal will, the seeds of genius are completely stifled.
Wow.
True genius requires total freedom of thought and freedom of person. 0 external constraints are required for the seed to sprout. Any compromise with your environment is a compromise of your potential.
Okay, let's step back and look at the brutal criteria we've just laid out.
It is a lot.
It is. To unlock your inherent genius, you need lifelong dedication to a single pursuit. You can spend 0 time maintaining relationships with family, friends, or coworkers.
Not at all.
You must have brutally narrow interests, completely abandoning the idea of being well-rounded, and you must possess absolute, unchecked freedom, where you never have to compromise with your environment or your society. How is anyone supposed to achieve this in the real world?
One could argue it is practically impossible in modern society. Our entire economic and social infrastructure is built on the exact compromises this essay condemns.
So what does this all mean? And it's important to step back here, just for our listeners. We are simply reporting the claims made in this text, not endorsing the viewpoints or the specific community mentioned. But it's crucial to see where the author's logic leads.
Absolutely.
And where it leads is highly controversial. Because the author admits that society as we know it cannot solve this predicament.
Right. The text reaches a very definitive, radical conclusion. It objectively claims that traditional production and living models cannot foster true genius. You literally cannot achieve this necessary level of isolation, singular focus, and absolute freedom in a normal town, city, or family structure.
So what is the alternative? Does the author just leave us with this impossible paradox?
No, the author proposes a highly specific solution. The text claims that the only viable model to overcome these four culprits is something called Lifechanyuan's second home.
Ah, okay. And the text frames this as the ultimate exclusive soil for these seeds of genius to grow. And the author makes a remarkably bold statistical prediction about this environment, right?
It is a staggering claim. The text states that if this second home exists peacefully for 50 years, 90% of the people living there will become geniuses.
90%. That is a statistical anomaly in any field.
Oh, for sure. The logic relies entirely on the systematic removal of the four culprits. It is essentially proposing a human greenhouse.
A human greenhouse. I like that.
Yeah, if you design an isolated community that collectively handles the chores, completely removes traditional social and familial obligations, encourages singular obsessions, and provides total autonomy without environmental friction, the author believes the holographic cosmic blueprint will naturally activate.
So it's a utopian proposition built on the premise that ordinary life is fundamentally toxic to extraordinary potential.
Exactly.
Man, we've covered a lot of intense, uncompromising ground today. We started with the holographic theory, this beautiful, if radical, metaphysical idea that you harbor the entire universe's past within your molecules. You are inherently a genius, fully loaded with the data of the cosmos.
Right. But then we explored the four mundane assassins of that potential.
Yeah.
The chores that yank you out of the deep-sea dive of focus. The emotional labor of socializing that drains your cognitive battery.
The diverse hobbies that dilute your mastery into 1,000 shallow puddles.
And the environmental friction that forces you to fight for the right to plant your own ideas.
It is a framework that demands we look very critically at how we spend our hours and who we spend them on. But as we wrap up this deep dive into the sources, we want to leave you with a final lingering question to ponder on your own.
Yeah.
A question that builds on Shuifeng's text, but pushes just a little bit beyond it into the messy reality of the human experience.
Right. Think about this. If unlocking your inner genius requires completely isolating yourself from the messy, chaotic reality of everyday human life, if you remove the chores, the compromises, the heartbreaks, and the relationships, is the genius you unlock actually capable of creating anything meaningful for humanity?
It makes you wonder, if you remove all the friction of normal life, do you also remove the very inspiration that makes genius worthwhile?
Exactly.
Is the chaos just the culprit, or is it actually the crucial ingredient in the recipe? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the sources. Keep questioning the balance between your own daily chaos and your hidden potential.